I mean, I don't know if these are mistakes so much, but I mean, they're definitely lessons that I've learned over the last year. Some of them the hard way. Oof. Okay, this is going to have to be a quick one, she says. Every time I say that, it never is, but it is freezing in this office because it's snowing. It's been snowing for ages, but it's the first day that it's actually stuck around long enough to get outside and do some stuff with. And we've just been given the go-ahead by one of our neighbours so that we can go and sled in the back field. So we're going to be doing that later too. Right, I'm going to try and keep this video brief. I say that, and then every time I say I need to make the video brief, it ends up being really long. So I will try and keep this relatively brief. Anyway, if you're new here, hello, I'm Kim. This is the Coffee and Craft Chat, where I drink coffee and I will sometimes craft. And the idea is that I talk to you while you work or craft, and usually what I'm talking about is all things to do with running a handmade business, or all the things that I've learnt not to do when running a handmade business. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, stick around. So the first thing that I learned last year will be a surprise to very few of you, and that is that Etsy is a dead weight right now. It's a distraction at best, and at the time of filming, my website is back up after having taken a holiday over the Christmas period, and I have not yet reopened my Etsy shop. And there is a small chance I won't. Why? Because quite honestly, it feels really nice to not be worrying about it. Not that I ever really worried about it, but if you have an Etsy shop, you have to do the things to keep the Etsy shop running. And I have to admit, over the last year, I've been letting a lot slide. In a nutshell, I can't be bothered with it. And I think if I don't have that hanging over my head, I can just focus all of my attention on my website. And I did speak more about this in the latest channel membership video, but it's just turned into a bit of a time suck and a distraction, and I can't be bothered with it. So I don't know if I will be reopening my Etsy shop going forward. Certainly not now. The next thing I learned is that Christmas is no longer my busiest time. Now, it hasn't been for a few years, but I wanted to see if this year was going to be the same before I drew any concrete conclusions. But it does seem that since I reopened the shop after closing it when the pandemic hit, my busiest and slowest periods have sort of shifted. So my busiest time now is in the summer, and then Christmas is my second busiest time. November, not necessarily December. I've spoken at length about that in the past, but I tend to shut quite early in December, so I do miss out on a few sales there, but you know, that is fine. Even if I had it open for a little bit longer in December, it would still be my second busiest time of the year. So that's good to know, and I can move forward and plan accordingly. The third thing that I found out was that POD is just not for me. Now, to be fair, I don't really do print on demand. I had 3 items. There were some cups with my embroidered designs printed on them, and I literally had just done them for the community here. But I hadn't been promoting them. I haven't been adding anything else or adding, again, keywords or anything like that, because no disrespect to anybody who does it, but it's not my cup of tea. So I culled them over the Christmas holidays. I took them out of the website and, well, Etsy, although it doesn't really matter if Etsy's not even open. So yeah, the mugs have been retired. The next one was a bit of a biggie, and that was that trying to design things with the seasons in mind was creating too many problems. Now, to give you a bit of context, a lot of my items are inspired by nature, and therefore I would do a lot of spring, summer, autumn, winter themed stuff. And I just kept finding that meant I felt like that meant I was constantly just sort of chasing my tail and just being late with everything. And also just focusing on seasonal stuff limited what I felt like I could make. I couldn't be as creative or go down certain routes that I wanted to, because I was thinking, but that's not seasonal, bring it back, Kim. So I think I might let that go in the year going forward as well, just to allow myself to play a bit more and be a bit more creative. And linked to that, the next thing that I learned was launching collections every season was also a time suck, and it was also making me feel like I was constantly putting out fires. For example, we're in winter now, so I should be focusing on spring items, and that automatically puts on a lot of pressure, because then you've got to try and think of things that your customers will want that are spring themed. So rather than aiming to launch a new collection every season now, I'm just going to focus on, I guess, shop updates. And they're not going to be, well, they might be collections, they might not be. I'm not really sure. I'm trying not to overthink anything at this point, because I do find that I get myself stuck in the mud a little bit when I do that. So I'm just letting go of the minor details that don't really matter. And once I've got, I guess, a collection or some new things to launch, I will launch them, and I won't focus so much on when I'm launching them. It will just be whenever they're ready. This one I've spoken about at length, so I'm not going to go into too much detail again and bore you with it, but although I think diversifying your income streams is important, last year the time that I had to focus on my business was halved, so I can't focus on as much stuff as I was focusing on previously. So I'm sort of in the process of reining things in now. So I think I had 3 different streams of income. There was Patreon, this YouTube channel, and the handmade product business, the stuff that I make. Now it's just going to be this YouTube channel and the products, and I'm in the process of slowing down, taking my foot off the gas with regards to the Patreon community, and at some point this year I will be closing the monthly membership part of it. And learning exactly how much time I had and what I could fit into that time was a massive part of my learning curve last year, especially towards the end, because that's when the change happened, and it's it's been a steep learning curve ever since. So then linked to that was something that I learned right at the end, and that was that going forward I'm going to have to lean into this YouTube channel as a form of income, and I don't want to make more videos because I can't. That's why it's linked to the previous thing that I learned, because I only have so much time. So what I will be doing is focusing on the channel membership, and as I said, I think in my last video I will be talking about that more in my videos. Sorry, but you know, needs must. Which reminds me, thank you to everyone who's joined the channel membership this month so far. Thank you. I've posted, if you haven't seen it, I've posted a new video that went up last week, at the end of last week. It was a monthly reset video, and I went into things, the usual things like my goals and, you know, challenges and highlights of the month gone and sales and what have you. And I talked about how many sales I made and my goals going forward, or rather not goals so much for 2025 as plans. My PLA. I went into more detail there. So if you haven't seen that, go and check it out. Thanks again for everybody who's joined me over there. And if you would like to, it's $1.99 a month. Everybody gets exactly the same, and I post an extra video a month for channel members. And I try and make it quite chunky. It's a little bit more, like I say, I can go into a bit more depth with these monthly resets now than I could before. So it's fun. And I feel like I can put a little bit more zhuzhery in the videos. So anywho, like I said, that's an area that I'm going to be leaning into going forward. So yes, leaning into the channel membership, because it is a part of this YouTube channel, will be something that I lean into in the year going forward. Another thing, but this one is linked to my website, and it's to try and replace Google traffic, because although I'm getting organic Google traffic again, they made massive changes last year that are involved with the I think AI and Google search results, and it's just, I don't completely understand it, but I know that a lot of people kicked off because it messed things up for a lot of people, and I myself have noticed a dip in organic Google traffic. So I want to try and do some more things to replace that, or at least bring in some new eyeballs to people who might be interested in my stuff, because that's kind of what we have to do, isn't it? The whole promoting ourselves thing. Ugh. So the way I'm going to try and do that, well, the plan was Instagram and Pinterest. However, I'm already having a bit of a wobble about Instagram because the news recently, I don't know if anybody's caught it, is that they've brought in quite a few changes that are just introducing AI accounts, AI content to increase engagement or something. And it's like, well, if we're going to get engagement, I would prefer engagement from real people, not AI robots. What are you doing? They've also gotten rid of, no, what was it? Oh, is it moderators? Safeguard? Oh, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, so don't come and shout at me in the comments. But they've just made some changes that are sending red flags off for the future. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on Instagram. I will be using it, but yeah, like I say, alarm bells are going off a little bit. But the other one that I want to try is Pinterest as well. Now, one of the biggest things that I learned, one of the biggest overarching lessons that I learned about my business last year was that buyer behaviour has changed. This isn't brand new news. I did a video on this for the channel membership some time ago. Yeah, I did a video last year for the channel membership where I was talking about how buyer behaviour had changed, and what I need to do now is figure out what that means for my business going forward. I'll give you a little example because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. The sort of stuff that I've been selling has been hand embroidery. So you can kind of see them there. You've got some finished hand embroidered pieces, and I also make hand painted and hand embroidered project bags. I also used to do things like stick and stitch patches and kits, and I've definitely noticed that's been the biggest part of the change because kits, of course, were huge 2021, 2022, like just tail end of the pandemic when people were spending more time at home and stuff. And there was a huge sort of uptick in people learning new crafts and things like this and starting hobbies. And that has definitely gone down. So I have, again, retired all of my kits. I've kept most of the stick and stitch patches, and I have got plans for new products, which I have spoken about. But I need to try and do some research now and figure out what my customers are looking for, what they actually want, because it has definitely shifted. Oh, it's snowing again. Is that snow or is that sleet? I can't tell anymore. Sledding in the field might have to wait because that looks too cold. And the last thing was just something that a conclusion that I came to right at the end of last year, which was the handmade part of my business is even bigger and more important to me than I thought it was. I kind of knew that it was the soul of the business and everything else kind of linked to and just revolved around it. But I realised that it really is the beating heart of my business, not just in terms of what I do, but also for me. This is where it gets a bit selfish, I guess, but you know, sod it. I am the person running the business, so I get to be selfish. But I fall out of love with my business very quickly when there's an imbalance and when I've strayed away from the handmade part. And I was feeling that towards the end of last year. So there needs to be a bit more of a balance. Now that I'm going to be focusing on just YouTube and the handmade business, that balance I feel is going to be easier for me to keep an eye on and make sure that it doesn't sort of go more to one side. So while obviously making videos and content creation is a big part of my business, I don't want it to be all consuming. If I'm making more videos and putting more of my time and effort into making video content than I am actually making stuff, that's wonky. That's not good. So I want to kind of bring the balance back, but at least being able to focus on just two things now is going to make that just a lot easier to do in my head. And I feel like maybe I muddied the waters a little bit for myself by having too many income streams, because it meant that I couldn't always very clearly see when there was an imbalance. Because although Patreon and YouTube are two different platforms and two different things, they're both video creation. So it was feeling towards the end of last year that my entire business was video creation and very little handmade stuff. So that also could have been one of the reasons why I ended last year feeling a little bit burnt out and a little bit over it in terms of my business, although I don't think Etsy helped. But as I say, because Etsy is still, my Etsy shop is still currently on vacation mode, things are feeling good. It's so weird because if you'd asked me even a few years ago if I wanted to close my Etsy shop, I would have said no, but now I'm just like, I don't want to reopen it. The only reason I haven't completely closed it is that feels too much, like I'm not quite ready to take that leap yet. So keeping it on vacation mode feels like the next best thing. And I know that people go, oh, it can hurt your Etsy shop. Mate, it can hurt your Etsy shop if it's working for you, if you're getting like organic traffic and you're not having to work so damn hard for every sale. But when it's like that, there's nothing left to hurt. So it can stay on vacation mode. I don't care. So that's a little collection of lessons that I've learned over the last year. I actually kind of enjoyed making the list for this video because it really helped me look back over the year, and yeah, there's some good nuggets that I can take with me going forward. How about you guys? Have you learned, what have you learned about running your businesses over the last year? Have you too also noticed a shift in buyer behaviour, for example, or your customers' behaviour, buying behaviour? Are you two also thinking of shutting your Etsy shop? Come, let me know. And as always, we'll keep the conversation going in the comments. You know I like to chat. Okay, it has stopped snowing, so I'm going to go and grab something to eat, and then I'm going to go out sledding with the kid and get cold again. If you've gotten this far, please give this video a thumbs up on your way out because it really does help, and I will see you again next week. Ta-ra!